Here we go, and just like to, welcome everybody back to another iMoot session. Looks like some of you have been going all night. Hope you're all enjoying it so far. Just like to welcome to this session and welcome our presenter, Jonathan Tan from the US, originally from Malaysia, so I found out, presenting on the importance of student engagement in an online learning environment that uses learning management system. So thank you, Jonathan, for giving up your time tonight for you, and I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Shane. I chatted with Shane a little bit earlier before everybody comes into the room. I was worried about nobody's going to be here, and I was asking him, what happened if there's nobody here? Are we still going on with the recording or things like that? And he said yes. Anyway, it looks like it's a little bit better than 10 minutes ago. So I'm glad that you all can make it here for my presentations for the importance of the student engagement in an online learning environment uses learning management system. It's a little bit long, but my sessions, I'm trying to, like I say, if you look at the title, student engagement, I'm trying to engage everybody else in this room who are attending my sessions, and I hope you all can help me to make these sessions more interesting and more fun. And don't treat me like a teacher or presenter. Just treat me like your friend and to share with everybody in this room and help everybody, just like a peer-to-peer discussions. And along the sessions, I will have quite a number of questions that I need you to ponder a few seconds and then a response either to the chat room, or you can raise your hand by using the icon on the bottom left. There's an icon, raise your hand, if you need to speak or voice your opinions over the questions. Let me know. I may not able to let everybody else speak at the same time, but I will pick one at a time to help with the sessions. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the next slide. So a little bit about myself. Like Shane already told all of you that I'm originally from the west of peninsula of Malaysia. I came to the United States back in 2008 for my undergrad degree. And currently I'm the e-learning coordinator at the Notre Dame College located at the Cleveland, Ohio. And also I'm currently pursuing my PhD in educational technology at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. And back in the 2009, end of the 2009, I was fortunate to take this class, Principle of Instructional Design, taught by Dr. David Muriel. And my final projects was selected and published in his book, First Principles of Instructions. It's the 2012 version. And then while I was pursuing my master's degree, I was fortunate to be able to co-author an article with my professor, Dr. Hartley. The title named Unconstrained Learning Environments. And he presented over at the World Conference on Educational Media and Technology. So that's it, a little bit about myself. And let's move on to the topic. So engagement, it's quite broad. So when we talk about engagements, what does that really mean by engagement? And what about student engagement? What does that mean by student engagement? And how do we define student engagement in an online learning environment? Let's ponder a little bit, and just feel free to type in the chat room if you have any, ideas or any, opinions over the engagement, please feel free to voice your concerns or voice your opinions over the engagements. So because engagement it varies in different situations, environments, and so it can be defined in different ways. So I want everybody to share your opinions about what do you understand about engagement before we move on to the next slide. So here I see. Okay, Tapita, you mentioned that engagement is an element of agreement, commitment to something. Good, I like that. I agree with you. It can be some kind of element, agreeing on something or a commitment to something. So, well, you guys can continue to ponder about what I have asking here. So, and I'm going to move on to the next slide so we can save some times and questions later. So, the definition of engagement, indeed, the definition of engagement can be very subjective or quite subjective. According to Audra, who was a student from Texas A&M University, engagement means to her as active involvement, and signs of engagement include eye contact, listening, being alert, or something else like Tabitha just mentioned, an element of agreement or commitment to something. Quite similar. And Stovall, another scholar, this is from another article, he suggests that engagement is defined by a combination of students' time on tasks and their willingness to participate in activities. And then Coates, this is another scholar that I really like. He's from Australia. I got his book, and I actually quoted quite a number of his articles and books. He talks about that student engagement is concerned with the point of intersections between individuals and things that are critical for their learning. So here Tabitha say something about two-way message being received and not just heard, use or apply. I totally agree with that. So what about student engagement? So we have engagement as a broad understanding or in general, the definition of engagement. Right now we add in the students, student engagement. So from George Cole's definition illustrate this complexity about student engagement. He say the engagement premise is straightforward and easily understood. The more students study a subject, the more they know about it, and the more students practice and get feedback from faculty and staff member on their writing and collaborative problem solving, the deeper they come to understand what they are learning, and the more adept they become at managing complexity, tolerating ambiguity, and working with people from different backgrounds or with different views. So here we talk about student engagement, but we didn't add in student engagement in general. We didn't add in like, for example, student engagement in what environment? Are we talking about in a brick and mortar classroom environment, or so-called face-to-face classroom environment, or are we talking about an online learning environment that using learning management systems or course management systems such as Moodle or Blackboard or Canvas? So so this is just a general definitions by George Coates about student engagement. So think about what do you define student engagement yourself? As you ponder about it, we're gonna move on to how to measure the student engagement. But here, let me be clear, a little bit clear, and then the slides. And now we talking about. I'm asking about how do you measure or how to measure student engagement in an online learning environment. So, first questions: can we measure a student's online engagement simply based on the frequency and time frame for a specific course? What do you think about that? What about the next one? Just because a student click and stay on an online course activity such as video lesson or discussion forum, does that mean he or she engaged with the course material? If any one of you in this room right here are an instructor, online instructor, regardless, I would like to hear from you. What do you think? I mean, when you or you yourself, if you are a student, sometimes when you're taking an online course, for example, they require you to watch this video lessons. A lot of time when like my experience is when I was a student, when I click on the video, sometimes I may not really engage with the video that I was watching just because I click it in. Doesn't mean that I actually stay on the computer and actually finish the whole 5 minutes video. Sometimes I was looking at my cell phone. Sometimes I was actually step out, grab a coffee, and come back. Or sometimes I was on the phone. But while that 5 minutes finish, and the systems, for example, as an admin person, for example, if you are an administrator or an instructor that have the full access to the Moodle, that you can actually pull out the reports of the students, whether or not they click on this and click on that. But from an instructor's point of view, or from an administrator point of view, when they look at that report, they will say, oh, that student clicked on that video. Oh, he must actually learn that video lessons. So is that count as he engaged to that course material already and he understood? Not necessarily. I mean, we don't know. I mean, but there's no what do you call like a black and white what do you call indicators to indicate exactly if the learner actually fully engage and understand that particular course material they click on in an online learning environment. I hope that makes sense. We can further discuss it if you have any questions, and please let me know if you have any questions. Or should an online instructor provide a variety of options to access or learn similar information in order to meet the needs of diverse group of learners? I think that's something quite important as the online learning or online education continue to grow rapidly around the world, where you have more and more diverse group of the students actually taking online classes. So that's something that we need to pay attention to, whether or not as an instructor or you as a student who taking an online course. You want to know that the course that you're taking are actually emphasize, or at least you're being taken care of, or the materials they provide are actually allowed you to have the options to fully engage or understand the materials instead of just putting out there regardless you pass the course or not. Anyway, let's continue to ponder all those questions, and then we will move on to the next slide. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to type in to the chat room, or if you want to voice any opinions over the questions that I have, feel free to do that. All right. I'm having some hard time here. Can everybody hear me? Good. Excuse me? Hello? Can you type in if you can hear me over the chat room because I don't see any response. So I'm not sure if you
Hey, Jonathan, we lost you from the list of users for a second there.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I was like, what happened? All of a sudden, I don't hear any response back. And I keep talking and talking, and I was like, oh, something must be wrong. I'm so sorry to everybody. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, so it's good. I think we can all see you now. Yep, everyone's typing in the chat; they can see you, so it's good. I think you're good to continue.
Okay. So did everyone hear my last explanation about the what do you call the online instructor provide a variety of options to access and learn similar information in order to meet the needs of diverse group of learners? If not, I can actually repeat it again. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna move on to the next slide just to save the time. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. So let's continue. So what the scholars said about all those questions that I just raised earlier. So the core components of the active learning are student activity and engagement in the learning process. This is from Prince in 2004. And it could be expected that students who are actively engaged in their learning management system hosted courses will visit the learning management systems more frequently and for longer periods of time than students who are less engaged. So that's quite true from my experiences. I mean, I have cases where I remember a lot of time when something happened to a particular student. For example, if um, he or she uh, did not perform very well for the first couple weeks. When I say did not perform well, meaning they did not actually log in as often as they could, and they do not engage with the course material, meaning they do not actually view the documents that we provided, or they do not watch the video that we provided, or the quizzes they we provided they performed pretty poorly. Then you started that triggered some negative feedback to you as an instructor already. So usually those students, if you're an instructor, something must be wrong with those students already. They're not very actively engaged with the course, the materials, and everything else. Then they eventually fail the course, or they perform poorly, or they drop the class. So I believe most of the instructors, if you are one, experienced that before, or anyway. So what are the challenges? When we talk about student engagement in an online learning environment. So assessing engagement is that it is not openly visible and rests primarily within internal student characteristics. So it's not something that you as an instructor can fully control the situations. That's something quite challenging if you're an instructor because you can only do so much to trying to engage with your students, but still at the end of the day, it's really up to your students whether or not they wanted to be mature to learn the materials, to pass the course, or that kind of stuff. Engagement encompasses a wide range of academic correlates, including personality, effective, motivational, and persistence factors. I actually attended I think his last name is Thompson's presentation session this afternoon, and he was talking about how to use the human touch to engage with the students or something like that. I thought that was quite interesting that he got a lot of very positive feedback from his students, where the way that he actually engaged with his students by using the human touch, it's a little bit different than most of the online instructors will do today. Not saying that they're none, but most of the online instructors may just trying to fulfill their responsibility, but may not necessarily reach out extra miles to not everyone will reach out extra miles by using the human touch to actually to engage, to build a relationship with their online students. I'm not talking about face-to-face classes. I'm talking about in an online learning environment. It's hard where you can really see your students face-to-face. How are you going to build that kind of relationship with someone that you are not even able to see face-to-face? But of course, we talked about different ways earlier already. I mean, there are many different online tools that and features actually allowed us to engage with the students. But here we're talking about as much as we can do, but that involve with the individual's personality, effective, motivational, persistence factors, all that. And then it's also driven by the student's willingness, need, desire, and compulsions to participate in and be successful in the learning process. I'm a little bit behind. I'm going to go a little bit faster if you don't mind. So the indicators of the engagement, we have asynchronous as discussions, where it's very, very common today. Most of the online courses have the asynchronous discussion forums because it asks by asks relevant questions that contributed to a rather meaningful discussions. You can actually help your students or to create that peer-to-peer learning environments and to learn from each other and to learn from their peers. And assignments activity, a student prepares multiple drafts of an assignment prior to submissions. And then course involvement. The student contacts you with course-related questions that extended the meaning of the required course materials. These are the indicators of engagement that you can use to indicate whether or not your students are engaging with the course or the materials. But of course, this is just 3 of them, but there are more others that indicators you can actually do to define or to indicate whether or not your students are engaged with the course. So strategies. These are very helpful strategies that for you as instructors to post, for example, to post a welcome to the course announcements that it's enthusiastic and motivating. Sounds pretty simple and easy that it sounded like everybody would do, but you surprise some of the instructors, online instructors may not even care to actually put up that kind of message to their course. But of course, I see more and more instructors actually posted a video, short videos, just very simple short videos to introduce themselves to the course. That's very helpful too, or even audio file that student can hear you. That will really help them to really engage with your voice or with your image. And Also, be first whenever possible. That means you set the tones for your students. Okay, don't wait for them to set the tones, but you set the tone first. And next, respond to all student queries or questions, and within 24 hours. I think that's a very what do you call that? We should, as an instructor, trying our very best to answer the questions, students' questions within 24 hours. I mean, I understand completely sometimes, and as an instructor or teacher, that you do. I mean, you are very busy with your, teaching career. That it's hard sometimes to adjust or to juggle with the time. But try your very best to respond to all your students' queries and questions within 24 hours. Be certain all assignments feedback is detailed and possible in tone, and respond to all or nearly all students' discussion posting. That's very important. You may not think that that's important, but that's actually very important, because sometimes a student feel left out if you don't really respond even a short posting of the message in the discussions. And if she or he see that you respond to the other person but not him, because nowadays you can see the time of the post. If you responded to someone else a few minutes ago, but you didn't respond to the other one, then he or she might questions or might have concerns later. Anyway, have ready a frequently asked questions link at the beginning of your course. That's very helpful too. And activities, establish and publish an extra resources sections in your course. You surprised that's very helpful too, but not very many instructors actually willing to spend that time to put that extra resources to help your students. Well, I mean, try your very best and to put up not just the extra resources, but the actual extra resources that will be very helpful to your course and or relevant to your course. Have students search for useful and fun websites for the class. Okay, that's very helpful too. I'm gonna stop a second, just read Christina's questions. What about responding over the weekend, Jonathan? Do you still have the 24-hour rule, or do you allow for having the weekend off? I think that's a very good question, Christina. I have a lot of instructors asking me that questions. My response to them is it's really up to you as an instructor. If you don't feel like you wanted to be intruded over the weekend, you should actually state it in your syllabus to make sure that, for example, I mean, I would say in the syllabus, over the weekend, for example, Saturday and Sunday, I may not respond within 24 hours. All my, I will be, my experience is you can actually state it in the syllabus by saying that if you really don't want it to respond over the weekend, just say by Monday morning, I will be checking all the questions over the weekend. I will respond to you at the very first in the morning. That works too, unless there's any urgent messages or urgent questions that needed to be responded right then. But usually that kind of questions or that kind of urgent matters are technical related questions. You don't necessarily have to actually respond to your questions. You probably need to refer to your IT departments or, anyway. So, but other than that, the solutions that I just provided, for example, like you don't respond over the weekend, but then you respond them back Monday early morning as soon as you can. So Friday is the last day you can respond the questions. Is that helpful? I hope that's helpful. I mean, or I hope that answer your questions. And let me read Tabitha's message. That database activity is good for students sharing resources into the course for each other. Yeah, I found that very helpful myself. And let's see. All right. I have the last slides. Okay. I'm 2 minutes late, but I believe I still have time to answer some questions if you have any. Please, I'm trying to have everybody else engaged with this presentations by not just me talking, but unfortunately time is limited, and I have 12 slides to finish, so I try to engage as much as I can. Unfortunately, I hope I able to deliver my message today, and please feel free to ask any questions you have. So Shane asked me to keep going on, so please. Oh, I still have 28 minutes left. Gosh, I must be too nervous to yeah, I got too nervous. Anyway, so I actually yes, my session is an hour long. I just remember. Christina, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, actually, let me go back. I do want to go back, since I still have time, to recap those questions that I have actually posted earlier, that I asked you to ponder over the time. And I hope you did kind of ponder a little bit over the time, and what is engagement means to you? What about student engagement? And how do we define student engagement in an online learning environment? Those are the questions that sometimes we don't even question ourselves or fully understand when we talk about engagement, before we even simply talk about or discuss about engagement. Are we really understand what does that really mean? And also later on, I also asked a few questions how we measure the student engagement. This is actually part of one of my thesis that I actually didn't almost complete for my master's, but I switched to another type of the degree program where I don't have to finish the thesis. But what I was research in this, what you call the lack of the student engagement in a online learning environment. That time I was actually pretty involved with the Blackboard learning management systems, and so I was actually that thesis was focusing on the lack of the student engagement in an online learning environment that uses a Blackboard. So later on, I started focus on another, not thesis, but article in general, talking about the importance of the student engagement in an online learning environment that uses learning management systems. So I want you to continue to ponder these questions, because these are the questions that it's really, really important for us to understand. Just because anybody click on something, or talking about in an online learning environment where it's all about click here, click there. So is that really indicates that someone really understand just because they click on that material, or did he or she actually finish that reading that article that you as an instructor assign to him or her? And just because I click on that video that I supposed to watch, does that mean that I actually staying in front of my computer and watching that video completely finished within 5 minutes? Even if I finish in 5 minutes, did I really understand the material? Did I actually engage with the materials? So let me go back and read Tabitha's message here in the chat room. Sometimes you need to ask what are the learning outcomes and what what is it that the student want as outcomes, as sometimes they are different and impact their engagement. That's very true. Thanks, Tabitha. Yeah, I mean, for example, I mean, like if it is mathematics, what are the learning outcomes? I mean, how we engage with the students if we are teaching mathematics online. What about chemistry? If we're teaching chemistry online, is that has to be different than teaching in the mathematics or teaching in art? I mean, they're very different. I mean, yes, definitely. I mean, we have to look at the learning goals or learning outcomes of the course before we even set the indicators for engagement for that online courses, for that particular online course. I think I mean, Christina say, I think one way of engaging student is to do peer reviews, peer postings, as Tabitha wrote, because making a forum post is sometimes easier than responding to one. But responding to another student's post, the other students not only need to have read, watch the material, but also take other people's perspective into account who already responded to questions. I like that. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of the discussion forums that we have in most of the learning management systems today. We're trying to have a meaningful questions that that what do you call that comes that actually create a meaningful discussions among the students, and the whole point of that discussions, it's not so much of the instructors stepping in to teach the students or answer the students' questions for the questions that they're being asked. It's more of how the students how they actually respond to each other's the posts and help each others to understand the questions, instead of I simply post the answers right there and or tell you that's right or that's wrong. No, that's not the way that we're trying to do for a discussion forum. And Tabitha say you can measure that participation much easier than their engagement. Yes, I agree with that. Tabitha further stated that a click order the order of clicks before this and after that, somehow analyzing what they write. I like that. So so Christina posted some questions. So when would you say they are more engaged in a forum? Can you feel it? Example, when they respond more lengthy or more deeply, are they more engaged then? Not necessarily. I mean, personally, I don't think that if it is lengthy, doesn't really mean that they are engaged. We have to look at the content of the what they wrote first. Is that really a response to the questions that are being asked? But usually, my experience is in a discussion forum, we try to encourage a brief a message or brief post instead of having them typing a whole essay, questions, 2 pages to respond to the questions, because that's not going to be helpful for everybody else to engage to the discussion. That's just my opinions, my experience, because when you have students with typing in without words limitations, what happened in the past, my experience is they're really going to type in like whole page or a few pages of the like an essay. And what's ended up is a lot of students don't really bother to read it, and they just skim it, and they just simply respond with a short answers. Good job. That's it. Then you have to further dig it in and help everybody to understand, as an instructor, what exactly kind kind of summarize it for the students who type that whole essay and to help the entire class to understand. So I would say set the limits for the posts in the discussions where have the students post brief answers or responses. Doesn't have to be 1 sentences or 2 sentences. That's not what I mean. I mean, lengthy enough or short enough that able to help you as the instructor to understand whether or not he's really understand what the questions is being asked, and is he really engaged with that questions and the answers. So, or the other students post. Let me stop here and read some other people's response. So, Tabitha say, Apara were doing some interesting things with looking at what students wrote, frequency of words, use of new terminology. Christina, that's probably starting to get closer to useful informations. Okay. And then Colin, you say learning outcomes are really important, tapping into learning motivation, particularly with adult learners. Adult learners know why they are there and what they want from the course. The learning outcomes tell them that they are in the right place. I like that, Colin. Thank you. And the robot struggles to look at it and interpret correctly the content. Okay. And then Christina say, I think Open to Study also did analysis to see how students are doing in a MOOC, trying to find out also how students were doing who was on the verge of dropping out. Okay. So Tabitha's answer to Colin's post, yes, but also they may choose to ignore the course learning outcomes and just try to get what they want from a course. So then if we don't ask, then we don't know what their motivations are and why they are only engaging in some parts, not all the course. I haven't really had the chance to actually look at the courses in Open to Study. I will take a look at that later after the sessions finish. But I do have chances to look at some other MOOC courses in the past. Let's see how to be actually talking to people. Okay. All right. So we have more message coming up. So Christina, you say fully online cannot always tell you what you want to know or need to know in order to adapt teaching strategies, trying to engage learners more. Yes or no? I think the technology is trying to catching up with more and more different strategies, features, functionalities, trying to come up with more ways even in face-to-face classes can't even do today. But is that really tells you everything? Yes or no? It depends, actually. Like I say, it's very subjective. Depends on, just like Tabitha mentioned earlier, depends on what you're teaching, what's the learning outcomes. It's hard to say, but you as instructors, you be able to to adapt the best strategies that you think the best for your students for the subjects you're teaching based on the learning outcomes. So, and then Natalie, you said Abe Zigman uses these measures for participations: recency, how often a player interacts with the community; frequency, how frequently they interact; duration, the length and depth of interactions will be measured, as well as the progression through to higher levels; virality, if their comments are distributed, shared, and like; ratings, the quality and accuracy of the information provided. I like that. Thanks for providing that information. I haven't really been able to read that. So Tabitha say open to study, free online study for everyone. Cool. Yeah, there are more and more free online studies online that you surprised that are available to take. You know, I mean, I'm not sure if any one of you have heard about the University of the People. It's a free university where you don't really, well, they offer two accredited bachelor degree in business and computer science. The only fee that you need to pay is $50 for each course or exam. It's let me type it in. You probably already see the talk of the founder. He gave a talk in the TED. I can actually provide more information later if you wanted to. He gave a very interesting, a very good talk in the TED talk. That's how I actually learned about the university. Yes, thank you, Tabitha. And that's how I actually learned about the university, and I really like that idea, and where all the experts and the teachers, the professors around the world actually comes together to actually teach the courses for them voluntarily. Anyway, there are more and more different ways of what do you call ways that we can actually learn online. Like I say, I mean, with the technology continue to advances every single day. I mean, it surprises every single day actually what comes out with the technology can do. That I mean, it's but at the end of the day, it's really back to the learners themselves. How what's the best way for you to learn as a learner? Because each one of us are unique and different, and we all learn differently. I mean, some people learn multitaskingly. Some people cannot have any disrupt. What do you call it? The distractions. Not even the sound. Some people can actually. Some people prefer to study at night. Some people prefer to study in the morning. Yeah, I mean, so it's really up to the individuals. But so back to the student engagements. I actually posted quite a number of questions in my discussion forum. If you go back to my presentation course later, the forum sessions, I posted at least three questions that for you to ponder and post your answers later. You don't have to go to the forum right now, but you can go to the forum later. If you can help me to post your answers, I will really appreciate it. And I want to learn from you guys how. I want to learn from you all that how do you respond to those questions, and you can help me with my research. And also I posted a survey. Some of the questions, most of the questions are for the online instructors, and if you can help me to complete that survey, it's also posted on my course. Later on, you can go back. It's just 10 questions, simple questions. If you can help me to fill it out, I will be really appreciated. And also, I posted all the links that the questions and the materials that are the contents that I talk about that related to those articles, websites, contents. Please take your time to go back and read those articles and or the websites content. And yeah, there are quite a number of activities for you to participate for my session, and I want you to spend more time later if you can to engage with my materials, and it also helped me to further research in this student engagement because excuse me, as I introduced myself earlier, that I'm still a PhD student doing my research, and this is one of my research interests that where I really wanted to further dig in how we can better improve students' engagement in a online learning environment, especially where today we have more and more learning management systems or course management systems that are coming out. And you surprise more and more new learning management systems coming out with all different kind of features and functionalities. But ultimately, my opinions over those new or old learning management systems are the same. They all trying to deliver an online course, trying to help the student to learn through the platform. So, but I think it's good that there are more and more research out there that started focusing on how we can actually help to focus on student engagement or learner engagement, not just what do you call the teacher-centric materials, but also student-centric materials. That a learning management system is that able to allow the user or the learner or the students really learn and engage with the materials. And at the end of the day, when the students graduates, they really understand what they really learn, and they can actually bring the knowledge to the next level. To help them to move on to even higher level of their educations to help them to succeed in their life. Let me stop a few seconds. Anybody wanted to talk on the mic? Let me know. Please raise your hand. I would like to hear from you guys. So Natalie, you said this is a primary school website. Lights to OER, not for online study as such, but great frameworks in place and lessons plans all fully open. I'm so tempted to make it into an all Moodle site. So, okay, I'm going to be so busy following up all the links from all the tasks from all the talks at this iMoot. Good. If you look at my students' blogs and judge them, you would be so far off the mark. Okay. Okay, Colin left already. Okay. It sounds really interesting quality research. Great to see systematic studies happening. This is such a strong theme for this iMoot. Our hive mind is connected. Thank you. Yeah, I thought, I wanted to present something different, and then something that it can help all of us to kind of learn from each other. I mean, I'm here to learn from all of you, honestly. I mean, I'm not here to preach my principles or anything. All these things that I found I read, I put it together. So I try to to put it together, and all of us can learn together, and from there, we can to come out with something new, So Shane, how much time I still have?
Hi, Jonathan. Yeah, I still got a few more minutes. Probably another 10 minutes or so if you wanted it. Plenty of time for questions and so on.
Yeah. So let's leave this last few minutes for any further questions. Before we end this sessions, I really want to hear from a few of you to speak on the mic if you don't mind, or if you don't feel shy to talk on the mic. To share some of your thoughts about the questions that I asked earlier or anything.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi.
I think my microphone's working. It's Natalie speaking.
Hi, Natalie.
Thank you so much for that fantastic presentation. I've been hunting the internet for research like you've been doing. So anything that you've got published online or even draft copies with just data, I like gobbling up this sort of information. So I'd love to have some more links to read.
Sure. Thank you very much, Natalie.
And I'm apologising that I wasn't at the beginning of the session, but the
no
topic
problem.
really interested me, so I just jumped in for the last little bit. So my comments, I'm ignorant to what else has gone on.
No, not a problem. I'm glad that you actually, you participate. I was worried that there's no one else will be here. Like I say, no, I'm not kidding. I was like, I asked Shane earlier about almost the time that I was going to start. I say, what if there's no one else gonna be here? What should I do? He say, just go ahead and record whatever.
So where are you from? Sorry.
I might just quickly jump in just to formally thank you, Jonathan. I know there's a few people leaving, so but just to say thank you for your time. It was a very good presentation. You're obviously generating a lot of discussion, so really appreciate you doing that. And let's see how the repeat session goes. Should be exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much to all of you.
And I think I asked Tabitha to grab a copy of the chat as well, so she'll post it in the forums because there's a lot of good ideas that came out of that as well. So.
Yeah, I have posted. Sorry, I have posted a few questions in the activities in my room. So feel free to go back later on when you have time to to help me with all those activities.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking it up. Tabitha, have you got a microphone? I've been wanting to have a chat to you. Hello. Nice to stalk around the rooms and see the same names.
Hello.
Hey, Tabitha.
Hello, I am here. So I've just copied your chat into your forum so we can keep the conversation.